If God never changes, why does the God of the Old Testament seem so different from the God of the New Testament? The Old Testament God is a lot more vengeful and punishing and disciplining, and the God of the New Testament so much more loving and forgiving. God didn't change. We did. As a human race, if you look at the Old Testament, from Adam and Eve, it looks like toddlers. God created beings that needed him there for everything, for their food, for their sustenance, for walking with him, for teaching him. And then through sin, he started to have to pull further and further away from them. And as they grew further and further away as humanity, he goes from walking and talking with them and feeding them and clothing them to now speaking into their life and having to punish them when they step out of line, much like teenagers. As you go through the entire Old Testament, you get judges and kings and prophets that God has to speak through to reel them back in, because they would step out of line. It says many, many times that a generation or two would go by and then they fell away from God. So we'd have to send in another punishment of some kind where they would be put into captivity, or they would have to have some kind of a punishment or a famine, the same way that we would have to discipline a child with taking away a favorite toy or grounding them or sending them to their room or something of that nature. That's the God of the Old Testament. He had to punish them more to train them up. And then you think of the rules that he gave them. 613 laws he gave them. Things like don't eat certain foods and don't wear certain clothes. And it was very strict with the rules that he gave them. But it makes a lot more sense if you picture them as a toddler. When my daughter was 3 years old, she wasn't allowed to go into the street. We all know why. But to a 3-year-old, she didn't grasp the concept. So I had to come up with a different rule, which was, do you see this line between the street and our driveway? You're not allowed to step past this line. And of course, what does a 3-year-old do but walk right up to the line and stand there and push the envelope, because she didn't understand the concept of cars. Now that she's older, I don't have to have that rule anymore. That rule doesn't apply to someone that's older, because now she understands street safety and looking both ways and watching for cars. Same thing with touching a stove. No adult needs to be told, don't touch a stove. But when we were children, we did need to be told that because we didn't understand fully. That's the God of the Old Testament. The human race, the Israelite nation, were like toddlers and teenagers, having to be punished, having to be corrected over and over and over and over and over again. That's the whole Old Testament. You get to the New Testament, and that is our 18th birthday as a human race. God goes, I've given you all the rules that I can. I have punished you as much as I can. I have tried over and over again to make you like me as much as I can. Now it's your 18th birthday. You're on your own. You're an adult. You're a spiritual adult. Go out into the world, and there's no more of the rules that we had before, and there's no more tradition either. No more having to sacrifice things or atone for things. Now, go out, and all you simply have to do is believe in me. And he sends the perfect man, Jesus Christ, to come and be the example for us to follow. Jesus' entire life was to show us how to have relationship with the Father, how to be a good son or daughter with the Father. And then if we follow his example, 1 Corinthians 11:1, imitate Paul as I imitate Christ. Imitate Christ is the goal. We're supposed to be like him. In being like him, be the perfect son to a perfect father. But God is now not going to step in and punish us and make a bunch of rules for us to follow. No, now he says, you're on your own. I'm going to sit back and pray that you follow the example that I've set and that you still call me once in a while. Think about it as a parent. If I have 2 grown children, they don't call me every single day. I don't see them every single day. I have to sit and wait for them to come to me. I have a father as well that I don't call every single day. He has to sit and wait for me to call him. It's the same way with God, as now he's not going to jump into our lives as much as he did in the Old Testament. He's going to sit back as the parent of an adult child and wait for us to come to him. And he is praying and watching and hoping. His will, his wish, as Peter says, is that none should perish. He doesn't want anybody to fall, but he's also going to leave us to our free will. He wants to watch us grow and draw near to him and follow his example and read his word and stay in communication with him the same way that the father of an adult child would. So I hope that explains the difference. It's not that God has changed, it's that the circumstances have changed. He's not going to punish us the way he did before, but he is going to be loving and forgiving and waiting for us to imitate him and communicate with him. God bless you.